Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cullen Hayashida, and I'm going to be talking about this particular topic, acquiring an active aging perspective, and I need to start off by kind of thanking you for being pioneers, in a sense, in taking this for the first time, and also we're doing this for the first time on this campus. I've done this elsewhere. Usually when we talk about pre-retirement seminars, we talk about Social Security or Medicare or your pension, right? And it's all financial issues, financial information, and which is all very important, of course. And that's why whenever there's a pre-retirement seminar here on campus, this room is very crowded, as well as places elsewhere at the other campuses. But retirement is much more than finances. I think we all pretty much are aware of that. And what I wanted to do was to talk about the various other parts of retirement that we should begin thinking about in order to have a successful, longer life. I recall once there was a friend of mine. He was 62, and he decided that he was going to retire early at 62, which he said, I have Social Security, I'm going to retire. I probably have 20 to 30 additional years to live, but Cullen, I don't know what to do with my life. Okay? So you can have the finance taken care of, and all of you will probably not have to worry about your finances or your pension and your insurance coverages. But there's whole issue with regards to what are you going to do with the rest of your life is a very important question, and this is something I wanted to talk about with you today. Background-wise, I have an association with the sociology department here as a faculty. Graduate from University of Washington, and I used to teach at Case Western Reserve University on the mainland. And I came back here, and I have been very much involved with elder care, first at Kokini Medical Center, developing some of the geriatrics activities there, and then over at Maluhia, which is a nursing home, and I was an assistant administrator there, and I started building up some other services. And then I ran the gerontology program over at Kapiolani Community College for many years. And now I'm associated with other activities, but I'm still associated with the sociology department where I have the ability to advise both the faculty and the students there. My focus, so over the past 38 years or so, I've been very much involved with elder care. As a nursing home administrator, with nursing at the hospitals, at Kokini, basically building up a whole variety of different kinds of services. Well, most of the time when we talk about elder care and gerontology, it's always about aging as sick care. Well, that's all good and great, but for us as older adults, I'm going on 73 this year. And we've still got a lot of gas in our tank, and we got things to do, right? And so nursing homes, and handbooks having to do with elder care itself in terms of nursing homes or assisted living or assisted transportation or Meals on Wheels, that may not be of specific interest to us, but there are other things that we need to know about in order to figure out what are we going to do with the additional bonus years that we have in front of us, the next 20 to 30 years. Okay, so that's what this is all about. So this is the situation that we find ourselves in right now. So I'm going to just provide a real broad background, because then we'll get into some of the specifics in terms of what we're talking about. Hawaii has traditionally been a young state up until the year 2000. And so the green line basically represents Hawaii with a fairly low percent elderly population for the longest time up until the year 2000. After the year 2000, we started going at a pretty fast rate in terms of the increase in the number of older adults in Hawaii. So right now, we're growing at a rate probably about 2 to 3 times faster than the rest of the U.S. There's only about 2 or 3 states in the union that have elder growth rates faster than Hawaii. So this is something that is, I think we are pretty much all aware of, that people are living longer, right? One of the questions then we are struggling with is, what am I going to do with the rest of my life, right? What is my passion, my purpose? Who am I without my job title? Who am I without my job title? Job has been so important to us, right? You know, you're Mr. So-and-so, RN, or PhD, or a professor, or, you know, MD, or something like that. Now you're, you know, Mr. So-and-so, PIP, previously important person, you know. No, and people struggle with self-introductions after retirement. And people say, who are you now, you know? So just trying to re-identify yourself, create a new identity for yourself becomes important, because your work is no longer going to be there. So who am I without my job title? Will I have enough money for 30 more years? Now, those in the state system may be okay. Now, there's a lot of people in our community, and maybe even our children, that will really struggle with this issue, because longevity is a bonus, it's a blessing, but if you don't have enough money, it's a curse, right? So people will have to be very careful about the cash flow. Will I have enough money for 30 more years? Do I relocate or age in place? How do I want to be remembered? How can I maintain good health? What will I do when I retire? What will I do? Do I stay home all day? Maybe I'll need probably another year to decompress, because work has been really stressful. And you do, and then so you take the time to go vacationing, or you take the time to maybe clean the garage or take care of the grandkids. But even the grandkids will grow up and say, you know, Papa, Grandma, I'm going to be with my friends now. I don't need to come over as often. So you still need to figure out, what am I going to do with now that I'm retired? Okay? Do I dye my hair? Botox my skin? Right? Will I be functional? What will I do with all my spare time? Because you will have an enormous amount of spare time on your hand. Now, in the beginning, like I say, you will, you know, maybe spend a year and a half just sort of decompressing and having fun and enjoying it. And then after a while, you know, things will settle down, and, you know, the garage doesn't need any more cleaning, or so, you know, and cataloging your photographs will probably be pretty much done. So what else do you do with the rest of your life? This is going to be an important question. What have I done so far, and where am I going? Will I be a burden to my kids? What if I'm left alone after my spouse dies? Do I remarry? Have any of you thought of that? Maybe you better not think about that yet. And should I volunteer for my cause? Okay, so these are questions that we are going to be pondering. And these are not financial issues, but they are important. See, finance can fund your purpose, but it cannot find your purpose. Your job now is to kind of find your purpose, right? Most of the people that retire, like my friend, like I mentioned, are not thinking ahead. They're not planning for this 20-year period of time. They're just procrastinating. So 83% have no goals. When you think about it, when you graduate from high school, or before you graduate from high school, we have this planning for your career that, you know, everybody goes through. You got the scholastic aptitude tests to try to determine whether or not you're mechanically inclined, or whether or not you're good at maybe going into, you know, to a university type, you know, academic type education. you'll have vocational counselors to help you. You got community colleges, you got universities, you got the military. Some people, so we've got various things that are available to help with this transition, right? But when we talk about retirement at 65 or 70 or so, we retire and there's nobody to help us to figure out what we're going to do for the next 20 to 30 years. It's like falling off a cliff. That's what it feels like, okay? Right now what we do have is like a lot of people that do not have goals for this period of time. We spend more time and energy planning for a trip to vacation or a trip to Vegas, maybe a 2-week trip to Vegas, than for our 20 years that we're going to have. We do not spend enough time to think about this, and we're procrastinating. So option 1 is no planning and just procrastinating. Option 2 is to plan for your retirement. And part of, as I mentioned, planning for retirement is planning in terms of what you're going to get financially and your Medicare coverage and so on. But there is much more to this. So I'm sharing with you this broad, very simplistic way of looking at our lives. So we talk about the first age, let's say, as our childhood years, time when we get our education and our socialization, and we're still immature and we're very dependent. Our adulthood age, or midlife age, perhaps where we're transitioning out of right now, or thinking about transitioning out of right now, is a period of independence, maturity, work, earnings. And oftentimes we forget about this encore period and we think about old age because we're going to retire. But in fact, we've got this encore career period, this third age, that is relatively new in terms of understanding that we haven't fully appreciated. Our maybe previous generations, our grandparents perhaps, they may have retired, 65 perhaps, and within several years, many of them passed away. And so it made sense for them perhaps to have a lot of time to just enjoy life. But what we have right now is this encore career. Because of longevity, we've got this longevity benefit, this gift of time that we have, 20 to 30 bonus years. This is a time for self-enrichment, personal growth, creativity, and to find purpose and legacy. So this is a time where we can begin thinking about how can we begin to maximize this particular time for for our own growth. And then followed by older age, where we do have health challenges, issues having to do with leaving our affairs in order. We've got loss, we've got death and dying, but we still have some issues having to do with purpose and legacy that we need to address as well. But the point here that I wanted to make is that we oftentimes discount the fact that we've got this period that we can refer to as the encore career years, our time for our second act. And this is what we're talking about today. Okay, so this is maybe a general way, and it's kind of overwhelming, and we'll go through each of these areas sort of specifically. And I talk about active aging as the period that we're in, this encore career, and that it's multifaceted. And so when we talk about living life successfully, living life with engagement, we're talking about somehow planning or addressing all of these different facets. So these are 11 facets that we'll go through very quickly. First, having to do with purpose, talking about physical fitness, medical fitness, nutritional fitness, financial fitness that you are dealing with here with your pre-retirement seminars with Social Security and Medicare and that sort of thing. Consumer protection fitness, mental fitness, social fitness, recreational, emotional, and fourth age planning. So let me go through each of this and sort of, we'll come back to this shortly, but I'll give you, let me explain what I'm trying to get at in terms of what we're dealing with here. What I have here in this particular graph is this difference between what we call lifespan and health span. Okay? We know we're living a long time, but there is what we need to concentrate on is that we've got this time period that we refer to as our health span. This is a time that we are healthy, that we can do things on our own independently. So in 2004, and this is data only for the men only, and I apologize for that, but this sort of used for just for illustrative purposes only. So on the first line there, 2004, health span was 77.1 years. I'm sorry, lifespan was 77.1 years, and health span 70.4 years. So the unhealthy period was 6.7 years. Unhealthy period, right? This is the period where you may be in a nursing home for 6.7 years. All right? Think about it in that sense. So in 2010, lifespan 79 years, health span 73 years. The unhealthy period was shorter, it was 6.1 versus 6.7, but it is still a lengthy period of time when you are still alive but unhealthy, in an unhealthy state, where there may be less quality than you really want to be in, right? Here's another way of looking at it. This is international data. The green line represents the healthy life expectancy, and the orange line, your life expectancy. And the numbers on your right basically represents the period of time that we are unhealthy. So it ranges from 6.9 in Japan to 8 years of unhealthy living in the U.S. So the question is, can we shorten this period? Can we shorten it so that we can live long and die short? Right? We can live long and die short. So this is the graph here. So think about it this way. The vertical line is your level of functioning, your ability to eat, bathe, dress, groom, feed, toilet, and get out of the bed by yourself. Okay, so that's the vertical line, up and down. So when you're very young, which is at that corner tip between the vertical line and the horizontal line, that's the period when you're born. So obviously you're going to be functionally independent, dependent, right, on your parents. And by the time you're 10, you say, well, I can, as a 10-year-old, you say, I can eat and bathe and dress and groom myself. I'm independent. I don't have to listen to mom and dad anymore, right? So that's when you're supposedly independent, and you remain independent for a fairly lengthy period of time, and then you start not taking care of yourself, okay? And so then you begin to see some, outcroppings of different kinds of health problems, and then you have this decline over time, followed by perhaps premature death. The goal is to get that line up vertically or horizontally up as long as possible, up until one's natural lifespan. Okay? We're not going to live forever. We all know that. So up until the natural lifespan, perhaps followed by some kind of episodic incident, maybe it's a heart attack, short stay in the hospital, maybe 1 or 2 days, and death. Okay. Okay. And you think, do I want that? Did I scare you away? This is not a Social Security seminar. I'm sorry about that. But something people don't normally talk about things like this, but what we're looking at is living long and dying short, minimizing the time where we have this lengthy period in the nursing home in a very disabled state without any quality, with tubes, all throughout, us, okay? And so in order to do that, as you can see on the right-hand side, it says, what's needed for successful aging? A physically active and mentally stimulating lifestyle, strong social engagement, purpose and meaning in your life, and an environment that supports that lifestyle. So there are things that we can do ourselves, and there are things that we have to work with others in terms of policy, and those are some of the kinds of stuff that I get involved with in order to kind of create this kind of pivot, this mindset from looking at aging simply as a sickness or a disability or gerontology as sick care, and pivot that to aging as an asset to the community, something that we can continue to engage in and grow and continue to provide help to others as well. So I want to get back to that circle that referred to the various kinds of aspects of aging in terms of the different dimensions. The first one being with meaning or with purpose. So the primacy of life purpose. In Japanese, it's referred to as ikigai. Now, that's not the same thing as an ikigai, a person who is kind of icky. Okay. This is a different, okay. This is, so if you were to go and ask, the term itself has resonance in Japan. And so if you ask someone what their ikigai is, they may not be clear with regards to what it is, but they understand the term. That's how perhaps widespread the concept has become. But it's trying to find one's life purpose. What gets up you in the morning? What's your passion? What do you care about? Why are you alive? Now that you finish your work, and but you've got additional 20 or 30 additional years, and so these are questions that are asked. What do I love? What is my passion? What are my gifts? What are my responsibility upon based upon what the world needs, and what the community needs, and what is my life work, paid or unpaid? And that combination comes together as your ikigai, your life purpose. Okay, and it may take a long time to figure this out, and it may not just necessarily be one thing, or and for the rest of your life. It may change over time, but it provides focus so everything else that you need to do falls into line. Okay, so this is something that we refer to as life purpose. Second is the second piece with regards to the 11 facets of active aging is physical fitness. So we had several words having to do with fitness. So physical fitness, all of us are very much aware of the fact that we've got to keep ourselves well, right? And it's your responsibility to take care of yourself by exercise, for example. And there's not just one type of exercise. You got to do cardiorespiratory exercise. You got strength training. You got stretching. I used to be a nursing home administrator, and I've seen patients that are contracted to the point where you cannot bend their arms any further, and that's because they've been in a position, fetal position, for so long that a physical therapist cannot restretch their arms anymore. Okay, and for ourselves, there are things that we were able to do when we were young in terms of perhaps when you were, let's say, at 2 years old, you could do a split, and you can't do that anymore. But stretching is an important form of exercise, and we've got to be able to do this continuously if we want to maintain our overall fitness. And same thing with balance. Oftentimes we don't even think that balance is an exercise, but it is. So there are 4 different kinds of exercise, and it's important to do that from a health perspective in terms of reducing, heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and so on. Okay. I am not here to teach you about exercise. There are many different courses out there, but clearly we know that this is important. You got to go check with your physician in terms of your health status. Look for a buddy to go, to do your exercise with. Start slowly. And make a commitment, make it a part of your day. This is a no-brainer. We all know that. My exercise, I love to swim. I just love to swim. I go in the water and I'm like a fish. I put on a MP3 player, and I listen to music while I'm swimming. And sometimes the music's not over yet, so I can't stop. I tried listening to lectures, but and all the bubbles I can't understand. So I love to listen to music, but it's a, you know, I just that's my joy, and I don't enjoy walking or running, but you've got to find what you like and perhaps do it with somebody so that you get that encouragement. But we all know that this is better oftentimes than just medications alone. Okay, so do it. Medical fitness. This is, you know, we're going to be experiencing various kinds of chronic care health conditions, high blood pressure, it may be diabetes, it might be arthritis, or whatever. And we've got to manage these health risks. And there are many things that we can do to manage it. And we've got to work closely with our physicians to do that. There are medications that we have to take. If it's prescribed, we've got to be able to take it as prescribed. And if it doesn't work, we've got to work with our physicians to let them know that it doesn't work, or if it's providing us with some kind of side effects, so we've got to let them know. So it's working closely with the physicians so that we can make sure that we manage these various kinds of chronic care health conditions that will be coming down our way as we get older. No questions about that, okay? But the question is whether or not we're going to take this seriously so that these conditions can be managed, okay? So in addition, we got all these routine checkups for your eyes, ears, your teeth, your blood pressure, vaccinations, cancer screening. All those things can be scheduled and sort of just routinely part of your day as well, part of your year. Okay, and you've just got to take it seriously. This is part of medical fitness. Nutritional fitness. You are what you eat. Eat for the long haul, right? It's great to eat a lot of junk, but it has certain consequences. We know that. There's so much in the literature about that. There's a Okinawan saying, hara ichibu. Hara means stomach, right? Ichi means one, bu is part. So basically what this means is eat only 80%. 80% until you're full. No, I'm sorry, not ichibu. Hara hachibu, which means eat until you are 80% full. So don't stuff yourself. Don't stuff yourself. And there's some point in that. Same thing with dehydration. When I was in the nursing, working at the nursing home, in some of the clinics, we used to see some of the older adults coming in, the frail ones, that had different kinds of problems that began appearing because they weren't drinking enough water, and then that creates other problems. And then once, they were hydrated, then many of these problems began to dissipate. So hydration, I mean, you think it's quite simple, but it's oftentimes a problem. Same thing with eating nutritionally. And again, I don't need to talk to the choir about this. You folks know about eating better nutritious food in terms of fiber, in terms of color, less salt, less meat, less sugar, taking your vitamins and so on. So these are things you folks know about. Finance, you've gone through this with your financial pre-retirement seminars. But again, we've got to watch our cash flow, plan for having enough money for 20 to 30 additional years. And even if we have maybe a good retirement plan with the state or with Medicare and with the health insurance coverage, if something catastrophic were to happen, I mean, a great deal of money can go out the door quite quickly, right? So we need to be careful about that. And what that calls for is taking an inventory of all of your income sources. Oftentimes, we're not even familiar with where all the money comes in or how much is actually going out every month. Understanding all of your different kinds of insurance that you have or that you're using, from Medicare, supplemental health, to long-term care insurance, and so on. And sometimes people will need to think in terms of what other forms of supplemental income might be needed. A reverse mortgage, for example, or part-time work, or some other kinds of financial strategies. Some people may wish to use their skill set they have now and do part-time work. They may not, you may not want to work full-time after working full-time for all these years, but you may not want to completely divorce yourself from the workforce, and you might want to continue to use some of your skill sets and continue to use that as a way of extending your cash flow for a longer period of time. And all of this becomes quite complex, and so it may make sense to look for a financial manager to help you think this entire thing through so that you can manage your wealth, your taxes, your risk management strategies, and your estate planning, and so on. And so doing some of that consciously is all part of financial fitness. Consumer fitness consumer protection fitness has to do with being aware of all the scams and abuses that are possible. If it's too good to be true, it's probably a scam. They're oftentimes very difficult to spot. There are many, many different kinds of abuses. And seniors are very vulnerable, oftentimes easy to sway. We have instances where caregivers, professional private duty home care workers, for example, come into a home and develop nice, friendly relationships with the elder themselves. And the elder oftentimes have no other person that comes in very frequently and may not have very good relationships with their loved ones or their family members. And so sometimes they can be easily swayed to write checks, that may not be appropriate, and a lot of the scams that is going on right now is financial in nature, and sometimes it's even done within the family itself. So this is a major issue. Protecting your records with Medicare, Social Security numbers, bank accounts, credit cards, and be wary of unsecured websites that ask for personal information. So this is quite a bit of things to take in, but just becoming aware of this whole issue with regards to how do we protect ourselves from these sorts of possible sources of abuse is very important. Okay, that's part of financial consumer protection fitness. Social fitness. Stay connected. Find a tribe. One of the things that is becoming very, very clear in gerontology is that people, the big problems that we're finding in senior care is that it's not so much medical problems, but it's loneliness and boredom and depression. And oftentimes this thing spirals down into medical problems. So what we're finding is that loneliness and boredom and life without friends is corrosive. It causes, and someone had even said that it's almost equivalent to smoking a pack a day for 20 years. I mean, it has a bearing in terms of your health. So when you do lose friends, people pass, it's important for you to sort of reach out and make connections again. It keeps us well for a longer period of time. So lasting relationships with your friends is very important. And there are various kinds of activities that exist in the community that can keep us engaged. Adult education programs, UH, for example, have different kinds of classes that's available. I'm not too certain. Well, for seniors, for over adults, you can take many classes with the faculty's permission, of course. Not for all classes, but for many classes. and they're done on an audited basis, right? So, and then we've got some other classes here through the Osher Lifelong Learning Center that's also available, and there are many other sources of educational opportunities in the community as well. So there's many other kinds of activities, and these types of things create an opportunity to engage with other people. The whole point is, don't find yourself in a situation where you're going to be alone for great deals of time. But I'm sure that this is not going to apply to yourselves. But this is part of becoming aware of the importance of social fitness, of becoming aware of the importance of being connected. Mental fitness. This is the importance of challenging your brains and using your brains. We're picking up information right now from the neuroscience research that's going on, having to do with what we call neuroplasticity, as well as what we call neurogenesis, the creation of new brain cells just by utilization of the brains. By active use of the brain creates new brain cells, neurogenesis. Neuroplasticity, where there are people that have lost a good part of their brain through brain damage and have been able to relearn, get the other part of the brain to relearn many of the things that was lost, and is able to basically recover quite successfully. And that's part of what is known as neuroplasticity. The whole idea is use it or lose it. And the more you use it, the better. Okay. So this is all part of what we're talking about here. Emotional fitness. Lighten up, laugh out loud, manage your stress, find time for quiet and calm, avoid negative thoughts and blame game, and practice gratitude, forgiveness, compassion, and don't sweat the small stuff. You know, if your husband or your spouse doesn't fold the laundry well, you know, don't make that a big thing. Maybe I'm talking about myself. It's not worth it, you know, right? There's bigger things to challenge yourself with, right? Okay. Recreational fitness. Play sounds like something that's only for children, you know, and obviously, you know, when first thing perhaps when we finally decide to retire is that we want to sort of just enjoy life and take cruises, and there are a lot of opportunities right now. And we got so many of our seniors going to Vegas and staying at the California, for example, very regularly. So we understand the importance of recreation, and people enjoy, going to the golf course. So, but this is just something that should always be built in, and it's not something that is unimportant. It's an important part of being well. Excuse me. So, and that's pretty easy to do, I guess. So this turns back to the final piece, and we've which we call the fourth H plan, legacy. And if we recognize that we're not going to live forever, so let's say when we're 85 or 90, having certain things thought about with regards to the fact that we will be probably experiencing maybe more chronic care conditions, and it might be a little bit more difficult to live alone. So it may be important to begin to simplify, even downsizing, decluttering, and possibly begin to think about what are you going to do in terms of relocation at some point in your life. Maybe at your age you say, well, I'm just going to live with my daughter. For 20, 30 years, are they going to put up with you? So so it's important to begin to at least have that kind of a discussion, a conversation, to think about what's next, right? And And part of that whole process is downsizing and beginning to look at all the stuff that you have and what do you really use. I mean, if things are not being used for 6 months, probably you will not use it. And it might be worth to either get rid of it or donate it or sell it, right? So that you can begin to simplify your life. And I'm going through that process myself. I've got lots of stuff. And then it's time to put your affairs in order, look at your power of attorney, your guardianship, healthcare directives, inheritance planning, bank accounts, etc. Attend to your unfinished business, and make certain that the family knows where all your papers are, and then begin to think about what is your legacy, as far as, what is your legacy for your family, for the community, for future generations, for our planet, and plan to leave something of yourself behind. So it sort of brings everything together. But and so this is a kind of a summary of what we have here. So starting off with purpose, and asking yourself, why are you here? Right? You got 20 more years, and what am I going to be doing with myself? And I think it's an important, and it's not something that you can, answer immediately. Some people know, and they can move on, and other people will take 2 or 3 years to figure out exactly what it is that they find to be an important purpose to work on. But I think it's a conversation that you should begin addressing for yourself and perhaps with your loved ones. Physical fitness, keep moving. There's 4 exercises. Medical fitness, lower your risk. Nutritional fitness, eat for the long haul, not just for tomorrow, right? Eat for the long haul. Financial fitness, watch your cash flow. Consumer protection fitness, beware of scams and abuses. Mental fitness, challenge your brain. Challenge your brain. Social fitness, stay connected, find your tribe. Emotional fitness, lighten up, laugh aloud. Recreational fitness, play is not only for children. And 4th, age planning and legacy. You have to have the courage to make a commitment, to make a plan. And it's very easy. So even in terms of trying to decide to start somewhere and say, where do I start? You can start anywhere, but just make that kind of a commitment. Just don't assume that you can continue to live and forget all of these things and put your head in the sand. You're going to find these things going to overwhelm you otherwise, right? And it's worthwhile to begin to think about these things. This is the point that I'm trying to make here. Okay. How do we do this? The first thing is, this is why I wanted this transitioning in retirement. The first thing that I wanted for you to understand was this whole concept of the 3rd age. That is that we have been given a gift of time, 20 to 30 bonus years that did not exist before, right? And the question is, what do we do with this gift? Okay, and to understand what makes successful aging is to at least to be aware of the fact that we have this gift. So this is the initial thing that we have to do in order to make this transition into retirement well. The second is to kind of do a life check. I call it a 50,000-mile life review. We do that for our cars, right? Well, let's do that for our lives in terms of, re-examining our life's journey, rediscover what our strengths were or are, what our passion is, what our purpose is, clarify our self-identity, because it's no longer going to be associated necessarily all with work anymore, or at least with your job anymore. It's going to change. Explore possibilities, direction, and who will you be without your job title, right? And it's time to begin to think about those things. And it may require maybe your club, maybe you got some Serotonin group or your Rotary Club or whatever group that you have, and you go over coffee and you talk about some of these things, and it's the beginnings. Right? Then we set goals. we set goals. And I said, we got 11 facets to what we call active aging. We pick something, and we may find that, maybe we're not, we can get that done in terms of our bucket list, and we can go on and start working on some of these other types of issues one by one. How do we wish to spend and balance your time with regards to work, with civic engagement, with learning, with relations, play, wellness, physical health, and I'll identify some of the obstacles and what can you do to overcome them. And then you develop an action plan. You may say, well, I don't know where to begin. One of the things that I'm doing right now, and we've gone through, and I'm associated with another facility where we're looking at about 18 different transition to retirement plans from all over the world. So I'm looking at about 18 right now. I'm getting kind of confused. And we're trying to see whether or not we can put together something that can assist our generation with this transition. And some of us can do this, can read a book and we're off and running. And others of us can benefit by doing this with a group. And so what I'm trying to do right now is to put something like this together for the community. And we'll have something ready probably by July, the ending of July. So, here's the thing. I have a couple of quotes here. So, the two most important days in your life are, one, the day you were born. It's the most important day, right? Second is a day you found out why. Why are you here, right? But most live their lives in quiet desperation and go to the graves with their song still in them. What is your song? What is your song? What's going to make your life? What is your passion, What do you care about? Once you can kind of figure out what your passion is and what is important to you, then everything else comes together. That is, you get your purpose clear, then that's the reason why I got to keep my physical health in place. That's why I got to watch my cash flows. Otherwise, I can't reach my purpose, right? So that's why I say that try to think about that first, and then these other things also, which are important, will come together. So you've gotten the training with regards to your Social Security, your Medicare, your pension. So that can be taken care of. But these broader issues with regards to what are you going to do with the rest of your life is what we're trying to address here. So this is a short way of looking at this from a Tibetan proverb. And it says, a secret to living well and longer is eat half, walk double, laugh triple, and love without measure. Okay? How's that? So the point of this was to make you aware that, this is not a typical pre-retirement seminar in terms of finance, and it's way beyond that, of course. It's addressing other questions. But I think that everyone think about these things, and it's sort of subliminal, yeah. But it's helpful to start having discussions with other people to address some of these things for ourselves so that we can move on and so that we can take a look at these next 20 to 30 years as a bonus and something that we can really thrive well and continue to contribute to our community. Okay? So thank you very much.